Good morning. Welcome back. Last class we did pointers to structures, to objects, and we also did pass by reference. We had done the program day before, like yesterday, but then we also wrote a program by pass by address. What is the difference between the value, the address, and the reference? How does the syntax change? And then we wrote programs for each pointers, objects, and pointers to structures. How do we invoke them, like, or access the members using pointers, like method 1 and method 2, both the methods we did, and we wrote programs for each. In today's class we'll start with this pointer. This is a keyword which is reserved. It's a reserved word or a keyword and is the name of the pointer to an object of the class. What is this? A pointer to the current object. What do you mean by current object? There can be around 10 objects in a class. The current object, this points to the current object of the class. And when do I need this? When you want to refer the object as a whole. Like when you want to refer the object as a whole, that is as a single unit, then you can make use of this pointer. So every object of a class maintains an hidden pointer to itself. So this points to the current object. So this is a reserved word and is the name of the pointer to an object of the class, which points to an object of the class is this, and this is a hidden pointer, that is, it is automatically created. You don't create this pointer, it is there, and this pointer points to the current object of the class. Please have a look. It's a 1 marker question. They can ask you this pointer. The next is we'll do a program to illustrate the use of this pointer. So what is the program we are going to do? We are going to write a program to print the current today's date. Like I am going to ask the user to enter today's date and I am going to print it. And we would be making use of this pointer in this program so that you will understand it in a better way. Fine. So hash include iostream.h, or if you are aware of that, conIO also. Class is a keyword, date is a name of the class. Okay, date is the name of the class and class is a keyword. In the private section of the class, I have 3 data members, dd, mm and yy. So dd, mm and yy are, this is access specifier, and dd, mm, yy are data members. So data members of the class are dd, mm, yy, and it is declared in the private section of the class, and name of the class is date. The program is going to ask the user to enter the today's date, and you are going to print it, and you are going to make use of the concept of this pointer. So what is this pointer? This pointer points to the current object. And each object in a class maintains a hidden pointer to itself called this pointer. After that, in the public section, you have void display and void input, that is member functions. Okay. These two are member functions. They are not going to return any value and I am not going to pass any values to it. That is why it is void, and then I don't have any argument list over here. It is blank. So together is my class. So my class name is date. It has three data members, dd, mm and yy of the type integer, and they are declared in the private section of the class, so it cannot be inherited nor can be accessed outside the class. Only the member functions which are declared in the class can access these three data members and are of the type integer. After that, in the public section, I have void input and display, which are void display and void input, which are the member functions of the class, and both do not return any value, and I am not passing any values or arguments to it. And since they are declared in the public section, they are accessible outside the class, like we can access it from anywhere since it is in the public section of the class. Please have a look and make a note of this. After that, see, I finished my class. I declared input and output. I need to define it outside the class. How do I do that? Return type of the function, which is nothing but void. Name of the class to which it belongs to is date. Scope, resolution, operator and input. So the return type of the function, name of the class to which it belongs to, scope, resolution, operator and name of the function. So I'll say cout, enter today's date in dd, mm and yy format. That is, enter day, then month and then the year. This is the order which needs to be entered is day, month and year, enter. So after this, please make a note here. I am making use of this pointer. Why am I using arrow here to access the data members? Because it is a pointer. Last class we did that, right? To call or to invoke using a pointer, then I need to either use this, or I can also write this as star this dot dd, correct? I can use, this is method 1 and this is method 2. Either I use star this dot dd, or I can say this arrow dd. So I am taking in dd, mm, yy and I am using this pointer here. And this pointer, why do I not make it initialize it to something? Because it always points to the current object. So current object to which you are calling, that is the current object. dd, mm, yy are the day, month and year. Today's date, that is today's date, day, then the month and then the year. So either you can use this star this dot dd, which will be the method 1, or if I am not using star, then I should use this dd. So using this, how I'll take the values of dd, mm and yy. So this completes my input function. Then after that, I need to write my display function. Again, it was declared in the class date, so it is a member function of date. How do I write it? Return type of the function. The function was a void function. So return type of the function was void. Name of the class to which it belongs to is date. Scope, resolution, operator and name of the function is display. And to display, I am not passing any arguments, or I am not returning any arguments. So what am I going to print? Cout this endl means new line. Today's date. Today's date would be printed as it is because it is in double quotes. After that, see, again I am using this. This also can be used like this. You can either use it this way or this way. dd, mm and yy. So I am printing dd, this dd. Suppose if I enter what is today's date? Today's date is 12/06/2020. So if I enter this, it will dd would be 12. After that, slash m is 06. If I enter slash yy is 2020. So dd, mm and yy. The date and I'm using this, I'm using an arrow because I'm using a pointer there. Pointer, with the help of a pointer, I can access the data member in two ways, either star this dot dd or I can say this arrow dd. So ddmmyy. Please have a look. Now I need to write my main. Without main, the program will not execute. So void main, clear screen, date dobj. So first I need to create the object of a class. When the object is created, the default constructor in this, you have not written a constructor, but still the default constructor would be implicitly run and memory would be allocated for the class. Memory would be allocated for the class. So you need to allocate memory, then only you can use it. Then dobj dot input, that is object dot input, will execute that input program. What am I doing in my input program? I am asking the user to enter today's date in dd, mm and yy format. And dobj dot display will display the date, today's date, in that format. So this is my program. Have a look. Hope you have understood this pointer. So after this pointer, we'll move on to the last topic of pointers chapter, that is memory allocation. So what do you mean by memory allocation? That is, depending on the data type of the programming element, that many bytes of memory would be allocated to that to store data. So that is memory allocation. Then there are types of memory allocation, that is static memory allocation and dynamic memory allocation. There are two types. One is static allocation of memory and then the other one is dynamic allocation of memory. So what do you mean by static? Static is something which happens during compile time, during the time of compilation, before the execution of a program. The memory is allocated as static allocation of memory, and memory allocated during the execution of a program, that is during runtime. Such kind of allocation is called dynamic memory allocation. So static and dynamic, we'll study both in detail with example. We'll start with static memory allocation. Static memory allocation refers to the process of allocating memory during the compilation of the program. So what is a compilation? Like whatever program you write, it would be in high level language. The compiler is a system software which compiles the program, checks for errors. If basically it's for syntax errors, and if there are no errors, an executable file is done. Like you get an executable file and you execute it. So during that time, during the compilation of the program, that is the before the program is executed, you allocate memory. Such kind of allocation is static memory allocation, and this is achieved with the help of declaration statements used in the programming language. For example, if I say int x char y, so what do you mean by that? I'm going to have a variable called x which is going to hold an integer value, so 2 bytes. This is a declaration statement wherein I'm declaring a variable. It's a very simple declaration statements. I can have structures, all those also. Like when you're declaring something, then here 2 bytes of memory would be allocated, here 1 byte of memory would be allocated. Depending on the data type and the number of variables you declare, that many bytes of memory would be allocated. So this static memory allocation is achieved with the help of declaration statements used in the programming language. For example, an array, how many bytes of memory would be allocated? 1000, because 500 means each one would carry 2 bytes. So 500 into 2 is 1000 bytes. So that many bytes of memory would be allocated to student, and student would point to the student of 0th memory location because it's a array. Array name is always a constant pointer which points to the first element of the array. Getting it? So this is static memory allocation, that is which happens during the compilation of the program before the execution. And how do I achieve it? With the help of declaration statements. I would have declared a variables, then depending on the data type, that many bytes of memory would be allocated. Please have a look. Next is dynamic memory allocation. So what do you mean by dynamic? Dynamic is nothing but which happens during the runtime of the program. That is, dynamic allocation refers to the process of allocating memory during the execution or during runtime of a program is called dynamic memory allocation. And how do C++ achieve it? With the help of new and delete operators. Okay, and then you should also know that heap is a memory segment where dynamic memory allocation usually takes place. Heap, H-E-A-P, heap is a memory segment where dynamic allocation normally takes place, and it is managed by new and delete. So why do I need it? New is used for dynamically allocating memory. And why do I need dynamic memory allocation? So that I'll not waste that memory. Because suppose I have an array of 500 students and I will only enter data for 100. So remaining 800 bytes of memory, that is 400 students, each one will be 2 bytes because it's an integer. 800 bytes of memory is wasted. Even though I'm not using it, it gets wasted and it becomes locked. Like I cannot reuse it for anything else until the application is running. Whereas in dynamic memory allocation, you can allocate and deallocate memory during runtime. And heap is a memory wherein if you want to allocate dynamically, the memory would be taken from there and allocated, and once you delete it or free it, it will go back to heap so that it can be further used. So C++ supports dynamic allocation and deallocation of objects using new and delete operators. These operators allocate memory for object from a pool called free store. Okay, from where? Free store or heap, both one and the same, right? From free store it is going to allocate memory, or heap is a segment where dynamic memory allocation usually takes place. The new operator calls the special function operator new, and delete operators call the special function operator delete. New is for using like allocating memory dynamically, and delete also is deallocating memory and put back to the heap. Getting it? Please have a look. New is for allocating and delete is for deallocating memory dynamically. Now we'll start with dynamically allocating and deallocating memory for single variable. That is, for one variable. Later we'll move on to arrays. Okay. So what am I doing here? See, here I'm creating a pointer of type integer. Like it's going to point to a integer location, that is a location holding an integer value. Int star ptr is equal to new int. So new operator, what am I passing to it? I am passing a data type, that is integer. So number of bytes required to store one integer, that is 2 bytes of memory, would be allocated to it during runtime. Then when I say delete ptr, from where will this be allocated? This will be allocated from the memory location called heap. Okay, from heap 2 bytes of memory would be allocated to PTR. The same way when I say delete PTR, then 2 bytes would be put back to heap so that it can be reused. Normally in constructors I allocate memory and in destructors I deallocate memory. So similarly, dynamically allocating and deallocating, this is for a single variable and this is for arrays, that is a collection of elements. How do I do that? See, if it's a normal array, I cannot say, for example, I cannot say int ARR of n. Yes, it will not allow me because it's a static allocation. When I say int n is equal to 12, it means that n is a variable and it is equal to 12 to begin with, but the chances are there that it can increase or decrease its value. So since array allocation, normal array allocation is static, that is, it happens during compile time, it will not allow me this. So how do I do it? Dynamically, that is during runtime. If I want to allocate memory, how do I do that? First I'll say int n is equal to 12, then I will int star array. Okay, array is not a keyword. I have given a name, like similar to int ptr, I have given int array because I am having an array, and array is a concept, it is not a keyword, so it will allow me to give the name as array is equal to new int of n. So what is n? 12. So it will allocate how many bytes? 24 bytes of memory, because each integer is 2 bytes. So n size is 12. So for 12 integers I need to allocate memory. So it will allocate 24 bytes of memory would be allocated to array during runtime. And then since it is an array, you use that open and close, and then the name will deallocate memory, that is, it will allocate it from heap and it will put back that many 24 bytes of memory back to heap so that it can be reused. This is using new and delete. You can dynamically allocate or deallocate memory. New not only works with int, it works with any kind of data type, and we'll be using it repeatedly when we do linked lists. That is, whenever we are doing data structures, there is a data structure called linked lists wherein we'll be dynamically allocating memory for the node in the list, and we'll be using new repeatedly when we do data structures. So here what I'm going to do is, with new, I need to pass one argument to it, that is the variable or the data type. Depending on that, that many bytes of memory would be allocated from the heap. When I use delete, and it will deallocate or it will free the memory which is utilized by the array, and it will put back to heap so that it can be reused. So there will be no wastage of memory. Please have a look. Now one more thing which is very important, it's a repeatedly asked question. Free space. What is free space? Free space or free store is a pool of memory available to allocate and deallocate storage for objects during execution of a program. That is, during execution of a program, you need, it's a storage from where the memory is allocated and deallocated. The new and allocates memory from the free space called heap, and delete operator releases the memory by deleting the object, and then it is added to heap. That is, new and delete are used for dynamically allocating and deallocating memory during runtime. New allocates memory from the free space called heap, and delete releases that memory used by the objects and puts it back to heap so that it can be reused. Getting it? Please go through this. It's a commonly asked question. It is a repeatedly asked question. Every 9 of 10 question papers will have this question. Write the next one. Write a C++ program to create one-dimensional array dynamically. That is, during runtime, you need to create an array. So how will I do that? Till now we have done static arrays. We have created a static array that is declared with a data type, array name, open and close brackets, and then the size of the array. How do I do it? Please make a note of the program statement also. Now we'll start with the program. So I need to create a one-dimensional array. So what is a one-dimensional array? An array with one dimension. So let me start with my hash include iostream.h hash include conio.h. After that, let me say void dynamic array. Okay, let it be the name of the function. Let me name it as dynamic array. In that, what do I need? I will say int size. Okay. Let me ask the user, because size of the array before, if it was static array, it was fixed, right? I would say maximum of 50 elements or 40 elements or 100 elements, and then I will ask the user how many elements you need. But then the memory would be allocated for 100 elements only. So here I am going to take in the size of the array, because dynamically I am going to allocate memory for only that many elements. So int size, cout, enter size of the array. Okay. Cout and L. Then I'll say cin size size. After that, what I will do, int star ptr is equal to new int of size. So I'll say int star ptr. I'm creating one pointer is equal to new is the keyword for dynamically allocating memory. And from where will that memory be allocated? That memory is allocated from heap int of size. So if I say size is 10, so that 10 means for 10 integers, that is 20 bytes. If I say size is 100, then 200 bytes. Depending on the size, whatever the user enters, that many bytes of memory would be allocated. Okay, let me add one more here, int I. So int star ptr is equal to new int of size, where size is a variable which I have declared. This is used for dynamically allocating memory. Please make a note of this. After that, what do I need to do? So I have asked the user to enter the size, and I have taken the size, and I have dynamically allocated memory for whatever the size, like whatever the element size I have asked, or the array size I have asked, then that many bytes is allocated to ptr. After that, let me continue. Cout, enter array elements, correct? Then for I is equal to 0, I less than size, I plus plus. So cin ptr of I can do that. ptr of I. I is equal to 0, I less than size, I plus plus C in ptr of I. So enter array elements for I is equal to 0, I less than size, I plus plus C in ptr of I. So now see out the array elements are, so say and L. Okay. For I is equal to 0, I less than size and I plus plus. See out ptr of I. Then after doing this, I will delete. That is, I'll release because I have read the array, I have created according to the size, I have created the array, I took in the elements, I printed the elements. So I don't need, because only read and write I am doing. After that I don't need my array. So I need to release back this one, memory allocated. So I will say ptr. Don't put it inside the for loop, write it outside the for loop and I close your function. So dynamic array was the name of the function. Yes, I have taken in, I have printed and I have released the memory allocated using new. Okay. After that, I need to write my main. Okay. So void main clr clear screen, then dynamic array. This is the function call get ch. This is the function call. End of my program. So this is how you create dynamic arrays, that is arrays created during runtime using new and delete. Hopefully you have understood that, you have made a note of that. After this also a static memory allocation and dynamic memory allocation is a commonly asked 3-mark question. So I say, what is the difference between static and dynamic memory allocation? Say, one more thing I have observed is whenever they ask difference, many students have the habit of writing it as a short note. That is, first they will write static memory allocation, one paragraph for that, and then they will write a paragraph for dynamic memory allocation, which is not valued, like they get 0 marks for that. When a difference is asked, you need to put a line and compare the same difference. The same point has to be compared, and some people have the habit of writing the similarities, not the differences. Whenever they ask you a difference, you need to put a line in between and then you need to compare the same point and say that how it is different. Don't write it as a short note, because if it is perfectly correct, also you won't get even 1 marks for that if you write it as a short note. Difference has to be written this way only. That is the difference between static memory allocation and dynamic memory allocation. Memory space is allocated before the execution of the program. Yeah, we went through that during the compilation of the program. When the program gets compiled, before it gets executed, the memory is allocated. That is called static memory allocation. By declaration statements in the program, you allocate memory. What is this? Dynamic memory allocation happens during runtime, during the execution of the program. And here the memory space allocated is fixed. Yes, you cannot increase or decrease it. If I say an array of 100 elements, then it is 100 elements only. I cannot make it 50 or I cannot make it 150. The space cannot, I can enter as many elements I want, but then I cannot change the size of the array. The same way the memory is fixed, you cannot change it. Here it is not fixed, because last program only we saw depending on the size I am creating the array. So when I say size is 10, it will create an array of 10 elements. When I say size is 50, it will create an array of 50 elements. So the size, depending on the user, it changes. Like you can allocate, since you can allocate and deallocate memory dynamically, you need not fix the size. Here the size is fixed. And more memory space is required? Yes, because I will say maximum I may have this one. It is always a guesswork, right? I may say maximum I have 100 students. I may not have 100 students. I may have only 50 records, but then the remaining 50 gets locked and it cannot be reused. So you need more and it gets wasted also, wherein the space required is less, because I will allocate only for the requirement at that point of time. And it's from the stack area, this is from the memory area called heap. So this is the difference between static memory allocation and dynamic memory allocation. Please make a note, it's a very commonly asked question. So this completes our pointers chapter. Hope you have understood it. Next, we'll continue with our last chapter, that is data and file handling. Please have a look before that. Now we'll start with the last chapter of C++, that is lecture 12 or chapter 12, data file handling. The weightage of this chapter is 5 marks. You would get 1 2-mark question and 1 3-mark question from this chapter. So the total weightage is 5 marks. You will get 1 2-mark and 1 3-mark question. That is 1 3-mark and 1 2-mark question from this chapter. And this would be the last chapter in C++. Once we finish this, we will be completing your 39 marks of theory syllabus out of 70. So you would be completing with that, and then we will be completing 15 marks of your practicals also. And the practical problems have been discussed during the theory classes only, which I have done and explained it to you. So if you have a system, you can download TC, that is Turbo C, because PU board is particular about that. So you download TC and execute it so that it will be easy for you when you come back to college. So we'll go through the objectives. Why do I need files? The first thing is, need. Why do I need it? What is input stream? What is output stream? And also we'll be studying about error streams. And then what are the streams in C++? Different types of files, like what are they? Text files and binary files. So how is a text file different from a binary file? That is a commonly asked question for a 3-mark. And then the disk file operations. What are the file operations? Like I can read from a file, write to a file, edit a file. Like there are many things. Opening of a file, closing of a file. Different modes, like opening a file in a read mode, write mode, append mode. Like what are the file operations I can do? Like I can open an already existing file. I can create a new file. I can read it, write it, open, close, and then different file modes in read mode, write mode, read, write mode, append mode. And what are the file pointers? Like to file pointers are for reading and writing. We have different set of pointers which will tell us the location of the cursor at certain point of time. And then reading from files, writing into files. Yes, we can read from a file to a program, which would be an input, and write it on the monitor. That is, from the program I will be writing out the output, and to the program I will be giving input, and or I can have input and output to a file, from a file and to a file, or I can take the input from the keyboard and write the output to a file. All these things we can do, and then we'll be doing programs for each of these 5 manipulations. Please go through the objectives once. Next is introduction to files. So, what are files? A file is a named area in secondary storage that is used to hold a collection of data. Yes, I have a Word document, I have an Excel, I have a text file, a document file. So, I do have files, right? So, each file is a storage in the secondary storage that is on your hard disk, that is used to hold a collection of data. It will have a name with a file extension. The extension depends on the type of file. So it is used, it's a named, you give a name to the file. That is why it is a named area in secondary storage that is used to hold a collection of data. We'll go through the characteristics of files. The contents are stored in a permanent storage medium. Yes, wherein you can edit, retrieve, read, write. You can do that. And of different data types. It is not compulsory that you should have text only. It can have any kind of data you can store in a file, and it can have unlimited size also. So these are the characteristics of files. And what is a file? It's a named location in secondary storage that is used to hold data. This is a commonly asked question. Next is input output operations. Like when I say input and output, it is to the main memory to the program, and from the program, that is the output from the program to the program is the input. Input operation. If bytes flow from device like keyboard, a disk drive, or a network connection to the main memory during execution, like for example, last program we took the size, enter the size, then from the keyboard you enter the size which is to the program. Yes, the flow of the input device from the input device to the program is the input operation. That is, if bytes flow from devices like keyboard, a disk drive, or a network connection to the main memory. Output is from the main memory to a display screen, a printer. It can be a disk drive or a network connection. Output to any output device. The standard input and output devices are your keyboard and the monitor or the video, that is visual display unit. From the keyboard you enter the data to the program for executing, and from there you will from the program to the output device. But it is not always compulsory that it should be like that only. You can read and write from a file also. The next is a stream in. What is a stream? That is C++ streams. A stream is a general name given to a flow of data at the lowest level. So it is a continuous flow of data, is nothing but stream. It can be to the program or it can be from the program, but then it's just a flow of data at the lowest level is nothing but a stream. It is a sequence of characters. It's a sequence of characters. It can flow to the program or from the program. Then you have 3 different kinds of streams, that is input stream, output stream, and error stream. So input stream. What is an input stream? The stream that supplies data to the program is known as input stream. Yeah, as the name suggests, if you are supplying the data to the program, that is called the input stream. Then the output stream, the stream that receives data from the program. Yes, the stream that receives data from the program is known as the output stream. From the program is output, to the program is input. Error stream is basically an output stream used by programs to report error messages or diagnostics. Like if there is any error, yeah, definitely it shows you from the program. It's the output stream used by the programs to report error messages is an error stream. So basically there are two types, that is input and output, because error stream is also a type of output stream used by the programs to report error messages or diagnostics. Please have a look. So, and then why do I need a computer file? Because computer file is used to store large volume of data permanently. And then what is a file? It's an orderly collection of information stored in a secondary storage device. So I can also say it's an orderly collection of information stored in a secondary storage device. And input stream, which supplies data to the program. Output stream is the one which receives the stream that receives data from the program is known as an output stream. So you can have a look at this diagram. You will have a better understanding. So this is the program you're reading. This is input to the program and this is output from the program. You can see the arrow here, input and output. Now fstream.header file. So if I want to use cout and cin, yes, cout and cin, what does it, with help of which what will I do? Cout and cin, cin is takes the input cin with this. I take the input from the keyboard and cout, write it on the monitor. Anything I want to display on the monitor, I use cout. It can be a message, it can be the output, or it can be the value of a variable, anything. After execution from the program, I write it on the monitor using cout and cin to the program. So for these two, I will use hash include iostream.h header file. Yes, I have been including iostream.header file for all the programs whatever I have written, wherein I would be reading it from the keyboard and I am writing the output on the monitor. Yes, so if I have to read and write from a file, then I need to have header file fstream.h header file. So if I want to have in C++ string file handling functions are implemented through fstream.h header file, I need to have hash include fstream.h, otherwise all this would give you error. So if I have to have files like file handling functions in my program, then I need to include hash include fstream.h header file. Okay, please make a note of it. Then C++ provides the following classes for handling files. So OFStream is used for stream classes to write on files. OF, that is out. To write to files. IF is to read from files. So IF will only read from file, OF will write from file. But if I want to do both, that is read and write, then I can have F stream. F stream will allow me to read from a file and write with the file, read and write from a file, whereas IF stream will allow me to read from file, and OF stream will allow me to write on files. Please make a note of it. That is, IF stream supports input operations. IF stream supports input operations, that is read data from files. So, reading data from files, it supports input operations, and OF stream supports output operations, that is write data on files. So, if I want to do both, then I can use F stream. F stream allows me to do both, that is input as well as the output, that is read as well as write. Please have a look and go through this. So next, the hierarchy of file stream classes. So again here, IF stream provides input operations for a file. OF stream provides output operations for a file, and F stream, it provides support for simultaneous input and output operations. So have a look. Next, it will give me the details, like this table shows you the details of a file stream classes. So starting with F stream base class, what does it do? It provides the facilities for file operations. Okay, what are the file operations I will be doing? I will be doing reading, open and close, right? I need to file operations like to read from a file or write to a file. First I need to open the file, then only I can read or write. It will allow me to read and write to a file. These are the file operations, and the member functions are, it has functions open and close, because first if I want to read or write from a file, I need to open the file, and then after completing that I need to close the file. So it has member functions open and close, which will allow me to open the file and closing the file. After that is IF stream, that is stream class to read from a file. It provides input operations for a file. The functions are get, I can have get line, then read. These are some of the functions of IF stream class. And I can have seek G and tell G. These are the file pointers. In objectives, we went through what are file pointers. When we go to that, I'll explain you in detail, and we'll be reading, writing to a file, from a file simultaneously. Like I'll read from a file and write it on the monitor, or take the input from a keyboard and write it to a file and open the file again. We'll have different file opening modes, types. How do we open a file using a constructor, using open function? All this we will do, and I'll write a program for each so that you will understand it in a better way. And then we will do file pointers, that is seek G. IF stream, we have seek G and tell G. Okay. The next is and tell G. That is seek get pointer and tell get pointer. That is the thing. Next is OF stream for writing on files. As the name suggests, write, we'll have what are the functions? I can have put, write, seek P, tell P, write, seek P, tell P. These are some of the functions available in OF stream. And then F stream. What is it? Both read and write I can do with F stream. And what is file buffer? This class sets the file buffer to read and write. That is, it has open as well as it contains a close as a member function. So these are the details of file stream. Classes, and you can have a look. These are the classes which I would be using. Mainly I will be using read, getLine, get, put, write and seek, G, tell, J. All this I will tell you how to do. But have a look. So next class we will be starting with, today there is no homework. Next class we will continue with the chapter files. So take care. Have a nice weekend. See you on Monday. Bye-bye.